The Tyrannosaurus rex is the undisputed king of our nightmares. But if you placed a living T-Rex right next to this prehistoric beast, the dinosaur king would barely reach its chest. Forget everything you thought you knew about the absolute limits of mammals. 30 million years ago, Earth produced a creature that pushed flesh and blood to the absolute breaking point of physics, a 20-ton walking mountain. An animal so unfathomably colossal that being hunted was never part of its reality. Its only true predator was gravity itself. The Oligocene epoch. Tens of millions of years after the age of dinosaurs came to a violent end, the world did not shrink, it only changed its rulers. The global climate was undergoing a massive transition. The sweltering greenhouse temperatures of the past were fading. The atmosphere was growing colder and significantly drier. The dense, humid, unbroken jungles that once blanketed the entire globe were beginning to wither, slowly fracturing and giving way to open woodlands and sprawling plains. And wandering across these ancient, shifting landscapes of modern-day Asia was the greatest creature to ever walk the earth. Paraceratherium. To truly comprehend the sheer insanity of this animal scale, we need a modern benchmark. The woolly mammoth is often considered the ultimate icon of Ice Age giants. A beast that commands respect, but if a fully grown bull mammoth walked past a Paraceratherium, the top of its head wouldn't even touch the giant's shoulder. Standing nearly 5 meters tall at the shoulder, with a head that could browse the leaves of trees 7 meters in the air and weighing a staggering 20 tons. Paraceratherium was not an elephant, it had no trunk at all. Ironically, the anatomical structure of its skull reveals a breathtaking evolutionary truth. This was a rhinoceros. It belonged to a family called the Hyracoodonts. Over millions of years, while its cousins evolved horns and stayed close to the ground, this specific lineage embarked on a radical evolutionary path. A hornless rhino that evolved a massive, elongated neck to reach the sky, dominating an ecological canopy niche no other land mammal had ever touched. But nature has its own ruthless, unforgiving laws of physics. Flesh and bone can only carry so much weight before being crushed by the pull of the earth itself. 20 tons of mass is equivalent to 4 of the largest African elephants, all concentrated onto just 4 points of contact with the ground. So how did a biomechanical machine like Paraceratherium not collapse under the immense pressure of its own weight? The answer lies in a masterpiece of evolutionary engineering: its legs. Unlike modern rhinos, with their bent, highly flexible limbs designed for charging, the legs of Paraceratherium evolved into what biologists call a graviportal stance: perfect vertical pillars, colossal columns of solid bone. Its femur and tibia locked together in a perfectly straight axis, transferring the entire 20-ton payload directly into the earth without requiring constant, exhausting muscle tension. The internal bone structure was spongy and trabecular, encased in an incredibly thick cortical shell. It was perfectly designed to absorb and resist catastrophic compressive forces every single time it took a step. Each footfall of a Paraceratherium was not just a movement, it was a localized earthquake. The deep, rhythmic reverberation of its massive padded feet could be felt through the ground from miles away, warning everything in its path. Keeping this mountain of flesh alive, however, required an unfathomable amount of daily energy. Much like a modern giraffe, its 2-meter-long neck allowed it to reach high canopy foliage. But it did not eat delicately. It was a brutal harvesting machine. Armed with massive, forward-pointing incisors that looked more like small tusks, it would clamp down on thick, woody branches. Using the sheer power of its massive neck muscles, it would strip entire branches bare in one violent, tearing motion. It had to consume hundreds of kilograms of raw vegetation every single day. To process this massive intake, Paraceratherium relied on hindgut fermentation. Its gigantic digestive tract acted like a massive biological vat, using specialized bacteria to break down tough cellulose over several days, extracting every possible nutrient just to keep its massive heart beating. At this unprecedented size, Paraceratherium achieved a rare state biologists refer to as predator immunity. Its world was shared with terrifying apex carnivores. Creatures like the entelodont, a grotesque predatory mammal often called the hell pig, possessing bone-crushing jaws and an insatiable appetite, or the giant hyenodon, a relentless pursuit predator. But none of them were insane enough to attack a fully grown Paraceratherium. Picture a pack of ravenous entelodonts crossing paths with this giant in the mist. They would stop, stare, and walk away. A single downward stomp from its pillar-like leg contained enough kinetic energy to instantly shatter the spine of any predator on Earth. Its skin was incredibly thick and leathery, acting like a natural suit of armor, rendering any bite completely useless. It lived a life of absolute supremacy, entirely devoid of fear, looking down at the world from 5 meters up, viewing the bloody, desperate predator-prey battles on the ground as nothing more than the scuffles of insects. But this biological immortality came with an incredibly steep price. Extreme gigantism demands a heavy sacrifice in reproductive speed. Based on the physiology of modern megaherbivores, the gestation period of a Paraceratherium could have dragged on for an agonizing 22 to 24 months, nearly 2 years of carrying a massive fetus, draining the mother's immense energy reserves. Each exhausting birth yielded only a single calf, and the newborn, despite weighing as much as a domestic cow at the exact moment of birth, was the weakest link in their armor. For the first few years of its life, the calf was vulnerable to the hell pigs and the bone-crushing carnivores. It required years of constant nutrient-dense nursing and fierce, unwavering protection from its mother before reaching a size that made it truly untouchable. This was a high-risk survival strategy, a biological gamble of extreme parental investment that could only succeed if the world around them remained forever stable, lush, and predictable. But the Earth never stays still. The beast that no predator could kill ultimately faced an enemy with no fangs and no claws. Around 23 million years ago, as the Oligocene epoch entered its final dying stages, a silent global tragedy unfolded. On the other side of the planet, the continent of Antarctica began to freeze over, creating a massive ice sheet. This altered global ocean currents and drained crucial moisture from the atmosphere, forcing the global climate to become drastically drier and bitterly cold. The lush primeval woodlands of Asia, the endless lifeblood of the Paraceratherium, began to wither away. The high tree canopy thinned out, giving way to a new, invasive type of vegetation that was rapidly conquering the drying earth: grass. This ecological shift was a silent, inescapable death sentence. For smaller, more adaptable herbivores, the sprawling grasslands were absolute salvation. But for Paraceratherium, its towering height and massive neck, once its greatest evolutionary privilege, now mutated into a fatal curse. Its anatomy was strictly engineered to look up at the sky, not bend down to the earth. It was simply too large, its pillar-like legs too stiff to ever graze efficiently on low-lying grass. But even if it somehow managed to kneel, biology had set a final, cruel trap. Its teeth. Paraceratherium possessed brachydont teeth, which are low-crowned teeth perfectly adapted for chewing soft leaves and twigs. Grass, however, is packed with microscopic razor-sharp silica crystals. When these desperate giants attempted to eat grass to survive, the silica literally acted like sandpaper, rapidly grinding their teeth down to the nerve. these giant starving ghosts began to wander endlessly across the desolate, changing wastelands, desperately searching for the last remaining trees. Their 20-ton bodies, once an impenetrable fortress against all predators, now became a heavy, inescapable prison of starvation. There was no bloody spectacle to mark their end, no epic battle against a rival predator, only a solemn, haunting silence across the Asian plains. The greatest biomechanical machine to ever walk the land simply collapsed under its own weight, starving to death in a world that had moved on without it. The story of Paraceratherium is a chilling reminder from deep time that sometimes reaching the absolute pinnacle of evolution is just the closest step to the edge of extinction. Absolute size can protect you from the sharpest claws, but nothing can protect you from the changing of the earth. If you find yourself in awe of the lost creatures of the past, hit like and subscribe to join Eonward World as we dive deeper into forgotten eons. Millions of years before you existed, this world truly belonged to giants.